I've had an opportunity to take a look at a couple of the early draft open government plans, and I think it's encouraging because I think agencies are really taking the development of these plans pretty seriously. And I think hopefully they're actually seeing it as an opportunity as well. I've seen some of the plans talk about cultural change, and I think that's an important aspect of open government. Clearly, the public and the administration and a lot of other people want things to change a lot quicker than things typically happen. My hope is that actually instead of taking the approach that we're going to create lots and lots of teams and figure out what to do, we say, listen, we have existing processes in place here within our agencies, and what can we do to adapt those processes that we're already comfortable with to embrace the elements of open government. And I really think that's how you get change a little bit faster. Let me give you a couple of examples. When systems design work is done for an agency to build a new system, there's typical processes that go around that, whether it's enterprise architecture or some people might simply call it IT planning or design. As part of that process, we're usually saying what data elements do I need and what structure do I want them in and how is it going to feed my process and how am I going to collect those requirements. As part of that, what you want to do is say a goal out of that IT plan or that enterprise architecture is going to be that as we build this system and we start to say the system is going to manage data, that we make sure that that data element is all about data sharing, and that becomes an objective in the IT planning. And that way, instead of an agency saying, gosh, I got to think of another set of data I can make available to the public in formats that they can actually use and download, I can say, gosh, as I'm planning for the future, I can make all of those data sets available. And so that's embedding it into the existing process. And so it's a little bit less scary and gets you a little bit further along. When I was at EPA, I guess doing open government before open government was cool. One of the drivers, at least for me personally, and then for the agency, was that we actually saw a lot of what was going on sort of outside of government to say, listen, we as citizens, or me personally as a citizen, was able to get services a lot faster or access to data I could never have access to before, all of a sudden I had access to. So it just made a lot of sense that as citizens we're having these interactions with private industry or other groups out there and having access to things, that they're going to expect the same thing for government. It's going to be easier for agencies to start open government and things that they're a little less risky or even politicized just to get their feet wet. But pretty quickly, government's going to have to turn around and focus on things that people really, really care about. And I think when they do those things, they need to talk about why it was important in terms of this kind of data is now available that was never available. As an agency matures in open government, what they're going to do is have a real process to say, okay, it seems like we're getting really good input and we're getting some experience in this. Now let's figure out, do we want to put it in the regulatory process? Do we want to put it in a communication process? Do we want to put citizen engagement in, a reporting process even where people, when we have a process that says we're going to release our annual data, that we actually have people talk about it and look at the quality of it. Who knows? Maybe that's part of the process. So it's sort of a maturity in terms of going from trying to figure things out and testing things out to really integrating it into the agency's day-to-day work and thought process for how they do business. The agency then is at the next level, which is saying, I want to get feedback and figure out how I can improve not just the processes, but improve the data quality and the context around it, to improve the conversations that we're having, the citizen engagement, to make sure that we're getting a cross-cut of people. It's not always the same people that are participating. So there's really the improvement and the measurement aspect of open government that, to me, is really sort of the most mature of those models. The other umbrella to this, obviously, is, and I think some of the plans are alluding to some of this, which is the leadership. And so you've got to have someone in the agency that says, listen, here's why it's important, and start to get that message down, and then you create the process changes to actually force that to happen. And so then it becomes sort of common, this is how we do business. And I think that should be the ultimate goal of the open government directive, which is, this is how we do business now. And so it's really not just an initiative, but it's really part of the government process to stay.